Hello! So, in the last episode we made this scene. There are a couple of things that I want to expand upon in this scene now, so I'm going to select it. And I realized in our render last time that we had the render amount on 100 and the display amount on 10. I actually want it to be displaying only 10, which does leave these gaps properly, where in the render those gaps weren't there. So that's a reason why you should always check your scene before you do it. But this time we want to expand on it. With those gaps in there, we actually need a texture. So I'm going to go, with it selected, I'm going to click on shading at the top, or you can press the plus, go to general and go to shading. And then I'm going to hit new. We get this principled BSDF shader. And I'm going to very quickly disable the particle fit settings, just so that I can see the material when I put it on. I have a texture planned, and I'm going to go into my textures, and I want dirt 2, and this is the texture I'm going to be using. Say very, very simple texture, and you'll see it once it goes on. As you can see, very simple. I will link you to this texture in the description. I do not own this texture, as you can probably guess. But it is free, so you can download it for free, and you can use it in your renders. So what I'm doing is I put the color into the base color, the roughness into the roughness, and set the roughness to non-color data. And now I'm going to bring this one in, and it'll be the normal. And I'm going to do Shift A, vector, normal map, plug that into normal, plug the color into color, set it to non-color data as always, and that will add a little bit more to it. You can obviously spice this up or down, but for now I'm going to leave it at 1. Next thing I can do is I could even duplicate this, add a vector displacement node, plug that into displacement, and plug the color into height. But that won't make too much of a difference now. And you can also plug that alpha into height. It won't actually make a difference for this. I use color out of habit, and it shouldn't make any difference at all on this yet. So you can plug the normal in as well. If I want it to make a difference, what I'd need to do is first we'll go into render mode. Then it should start making a difference. Yeah, as you can see, it's actually doing something now. But if I change it to in the settings of the material, so I'm on this material, I will name this dirt. So I'm in the settings of this. It's currently displacement is bump only. I'm going to change it to displacement and bump. It will only hop it up a little at the moment, but we will fix that. Next thing I want to do is I don't want it to be constant all over. So if I put on the back on, it's sort of relatively evenly spread, although there are gaps in it. That's not very attractive. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to press tab to go to edit mode, and currently it's a singular plane. We don't want that. I'm going to press W, subdivide, open this little panel on the bottom. I'm going to increase it. I still want more than that, so I'm going to subdivide again, and I'm going to increase it to about here. So that's a relatively dense mesh. But what we're going to do after that is I'm going to go into the sculpting pane, and we're going to start sculpting. So because I am now in sculpt mode, I should be able to just draw on it, like so. This is also where you have things like your cloth brush, which I have very limited results with. I'm not too big a fan of the sculpt brush yet. Oh, sorry, I accidentally went out of sculpt mode. But you can also use things like the crease brush, but the one I'm going to use today is the clay brush. What I want to do is I want to make a path. So if I were to go, say, here, I am locked into the top view because I want to be sculpting on a singular axis, which is the Z axis. I'm going to make just a slight winding path that goes around and down, almost like a river. And then around the sides, I'm going to bring it up, bringing my brush up by pressing F. And I'm intentionally being very rough because the real world is not particularly soft. And I'm not at all worried about anything looking too disorganized. And I want it to get to the point where it's very much like this. But I am going to get out the flatten brush. And I'm going to just go through here to create this slightly flat area as it walks through. See what I mean? So you've got like a path going through here. And I'm going to make a slightly smoother spot here. And just to make sure there's no weird areas on the sides, I'm just going to quickly go over that and go like that. Brilliant. So now we've got our area of a path going through with bumps on either side. So if I now looked at this in Reddit mode, you can see, because I put the thing on, so I need to actually go Object, Shade Smooth, and I also need to fix some of the displacement. So back in here, bring the displacement down by a little. I'm going to actually put it on to about 0.5-ish for now. I can probably go less than that as well. 0 will be no displacement. Eventually, I am going to actually scale this, so I will do that now. Vector mapping. I'm going to plug the mapping node into all of these. So the mapping node is deciding on exactly where everything goes. The reason we do this is when I plug in the what's texture coordinate? There it is. Go to UV, plugs that, goes into the vector at the top. One thing I can now do is if I actually were to bring back in my grass, although it does look very nice, the grass and the ground texture are very different sizes, which is weird. So you can kind of see it there. So I'm going to bring this up, let's say to 4. And maybe a little bit bigger still. 5. There we go. So now we have a path, and we've got grass growing at the top. But the path is going to be walked on. So a walked on path, that shouldn't be as overgrown. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into Vertex Groups, which is this button here. We're going to add one. We're going to call this Density. Go into Weight Paint mode. And to start off, I'm going to paint everything. Everything red. Not really caring too much about it being perfect, because again, it's not perfect. And I bring the strength all the way down, and strength all the way up, and bring the weight all the way down. I'm actually going to bring the strength just slightly off, slightly off the top, sorry. And I'm just going to go through. I'm going to weight paint again, being kind of rough. Get rid of a load of this stuff around the edges. I don't want it to be perfect. Keep it nice and rough. And I go back out of weight paint mode. So that information is now stored in this density group. Back to our particle settings. Going to turn them on. And then going all the way down to vertex groups. Ours is called density. Put in density. And bam, we now have our path. And now you can see that we've got the grass growing nicely. And we've got our path growing out through here. Which will be the way that people will walk. And there's more that we're going to add to this in another episode. But for now, that's all we got. And I position this so we can watch over the path. Or looking down off the top, find a nice position for it. And just go about here. Render. Perfect. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode.